Hey guys, this lesson is from pre-calculus, and I know this is 1.9, but we're going to be starting chapter 9, which is on conic sections. So conics have 4 different graphs that we're going to be talking about: circles, ellipse, parabolas, and hyperbolas. Okay, so because we've learned circles in the past in this textbook, chapter 1 does a review of past information, so that's why circles is found in 1.9. So let's take a look at this. The standard form of the equation, you may be used to seeing x squared plus y squared equals r squared. That's old information. This h and k come into play when we start shifting our circle from the origin, where h is our horizontal shift and k is our vertical shift, creating h comma k, the center of that circle. Okay, so notice that the formulas have a minus h and a minus k, where the h and k are the center. And then r, we've seen in the past, the square root of whatever number here is to isolate r would be my radius. Okay, so let's just do a quick recap. Let's look at some of these questions. We have write the standard form of the equation of a circle centered at -4, 1 with a radius, sorry for that typo there, with a radius of 3, and then graph it. Okay, so if I'm following my setup here, I have x minus my x value, my h is a -4, so be careful with all those negatives there. Then squared plus y minus my k, which is 1, squared equals r, my radius, which is 3, squared. We can clean this up to say x plus 4 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 9. And I am done. I have my equation in standard form. Okay, so now if I want to graph this, my center goes 4 to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 up. Okay, that's my center. And now if my radius is 3, that means I'm going to travel 3 in each direction. So I'm going to go 3 up, 1, 2, 3. That would actually land me at 4. I'm going to go 3 down, 1, 2, 3. That would land me at -2. 3 to the left, 1, 2, 3, landing me at 0. And then 1, 2, 3, landing me at -7. So obviously we are just sketching these graphs, so don't worry if it doesn't look like a perfect circle. You will come to see that mine never looked like a perfect circle, and that's okay. All right, so the reason why I write those numbers is because soon I'm going to be asking about domain and range, and being able to see domain left to right from -7 to 0, and range bottom to top, -2 to +4. Let's take a look at that in our next question. Find the center, radius, domain, and range, and then graph. Okay, so this question has just about everything. Now they give us the equation. Okay, so I know that my standard form has x minus a number. So that means that if this became positive, like in my last question, that must have been a negative number. Okay, so I can say my center is going to be -3, comma, +4. My radius is going to be square root of this number, which is going to be 3. Okay, and then I'll do my domain and range after I graph. I think it's easier to see it. So let's draw my center. I'm going 3, 1, 2, 3 to the left. And I'm going 4 up, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is my center. With a radius, we said, of 3, so I'm going to go 3 down, 1, 2, 3, down to 1. I'm going to go 3 up, 1, 2, 3, up to 7. And then I'm going to go 3 to the right, I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3 at 0. Line that up with the center. And then 3 to the left, which is going to get me at -6. We're going to connect our dots, making our circle. Okay, so now I could see my domain, which is furthest left to furthest right with my x values, -6 to 0. And then my range from lowest to highest is going to go from 1 up to 7. And you are done with this question. So we're going to repeat the same two style of questions. I encourage you to pause this video, try them on your own, and then play to see the work. So let's go ahead and check these out. Write the standard form of the equation of a circle centered at -2, 7 with a radius of 5. So we know we write x minus my x value, which is a -2, plus y minus my y value, which is 7, squared equals the radius, which is 5, squared. If I clean this, oh, I'm sorry, I'm writing with the wrong color pen here. I get x plus 2 squared plus y minus 7 squared equals 25. Done writing my equation. Now let's go ahead and graph it. Okay, my center is at -2. I'm going to go 1, 2, and then 7 up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now my radius is 5, so I'm just going to go 5 in every direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, landing me at 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, over here 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, landing me at 12. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at -7. And again, we're sketching. Depending on how you drew your tallies, it's not going to look perfect, but it's okay as long as this information is and you have these correct numbers here, okay? All right, let's check out the next one. Find the center, radius, domain, and range, and then graph the equation. So my center, remember, is opposite signs, so I have 6, -5. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My radius would be the square root of this number, which gives me 7. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 over, which lands me at 13. 7 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lands me at -1. Well, it's actually going right with that negative, so let me move it. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, landing me at 2. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, landing me at -12. And again, this should look like a perfect circle. We're going to see shapes that are ellipse, which are actually circles that get stretched horizontally or vertically. These are not it. It's just bad drawing, guys. All right, so now my domain is furthest left to right. The furthest left that I go is -1 all the way up to 13. So I go -1 to 13. And then range is lowest, which is -12, all the way up to the highest, which is 2. All right, guys. So our circles are not always given to us in standard form. Sometimes they're given to us in general form. And what that means is that those binomial squares were distributed and everything was moved to the left side of the equation. All right, so you can see we'll have our x and our y squares, an x and y to the first power, and then a constant. Okay. Now the problem with this is that we need it in standard form in order to graph it. Okay, so if it's given to you in this format, you're gonna have to take that extra step of converting it to standard form, and then you can go ahead and graph. All right, So here are the steps you're going to take, and here are some reminders from Algebra 2. Your first step is going to be to move the constant to the right side. So like this f would go over. Then on the left side, you're going to combine like terms, meaning you're going to put these x's together and these y's together. Now, right after those two x's and those two y's, you're going to leave a blank to complete the square. A reminder on how to complete the square, you're looking specifically for a perfect square. So this C would be the blank that you're drawing. And your goal is to get it to this binomial squared like we've seen in the standard form. Now, the way we do that, we find the C by doing half of B, meaning that second term, squared. That is the number that goes in that spot. Once we have that number, we can rewrite it, okay, in terms of the binomial squared, and we would say x plus or minus, depending on the sign of B, half of it. Okay, it seems a little foreign right here when we're seeing it in steps. You'll see me work one out, and then you're going to be able to try one on your own. Okay, so now if you add the c's to the left side, you're going to have to also add it to the right side where you move that constant in order to keep this equation the same value. Okay, then on the left side, you make sure you change those, and you should be able to see it in its standard form. Watch me work one out, and then hopefully you can pause the video and try the next one on your own. Again, this is from Algebra 2, so this hopefully is a refresher. All right, so we said step 1 was to move this constant to the right side. So if I subtract it here, it's going to say equals negative 29. I'm going to combine my terms on the left side, so I'm going to say the x squared, the negative 14x, and then I'm going to leave a blank. I'm going to do the same thing with the y's. I have a positive y squared, I have an 8y, and then I'm going to leave a blank. Now, if I'm going to input two numbers on this left side, I need to keep it balanced, also input those same two numbers on the right side. We are moving on to step 2. I'm going to complete the square. I know that I can find this number by using this b. And then I'm going to find this number by using this b. And I say b because of the format we have it written right here. It's that middle term. Okay? So, half of 14 squared, right? Half of negative 14 is a negative 7. If we square that, we're going to get a 49. Now remember, anytime you squared, it will be positive. So if I added a 49 on this left side, I need to add it to this right side. Now for the y's. Half of 8 is 4, and 4 squared is 16. Again, to find that c, I'm doing half of the b squared, okay? Now, if I added this 16 to the left, I also have to add it to the right side, okay? Now, I'm going to be able to write this perfect square as a binomial of x, half of b, which would be minus 7, squared. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the y. Plus y, half of this b would be a positive 4 squared. Equals, and now I'm going to combine these terms. Combining these would give me a 36. And now, hopefully, you can see your equation in standard form. Now I can easily spot my center, which is going to be a 7, negative 4. And then my radius is the square root of that 36, which is 6. And now you can go ahead and graph this and find its domain and range. All right? So I'm going to give you one more question for this lesson. And it would look like this on your homework, quiz, or test. Graph and find the domain and range. But I give you the equation in general form instead of standard form. So take a minute, pause, try to complete this question as much as you can, and then go ahead and press play and see how much you can do on your own. Let's check this out. Step 1 is to move the constant to the right side. Now on the left, I'm going to combine like terms. So I'm going to put my x's together, leave a blank, my y's together, and leave a blank. If I put 2 blanks on the left, I need to put 2 blanks on the right. Now, let's complete the square for the x's. Half of my middle term would be a -2, squared would be a +4. If I add a 4 to the left, I have to add a 4 to the right. Now let's do the y's. Half of my middle term would be 6. 6 squared would be 36. Okay, now on the left, we're going to write this as a binomial squared, which would be x. Half of my middle term, half of -4 is -2, and I put my square on my outside. Plus, I put my y, half of my middle term, which would be +6, and then the squared on the outside. And now I'm going to combine these terms on the right-hand side. -15 plus 4 plus 36 is going to give me a +25. I now have my equation in standard form. So let's go ahead and work on graphing. My center is going to be at 2, -6. My radius is going to be the square root of this number on the right, which is going to be 5. Now, before I do domain and range, I'm going to go ahead and graph it just so it's easier to visualize. You don't have to do it in that order. Okay, so let me take a moment and put my graph really quick. So now to graph, we will put our center at 2, -6. And then we'll take our radius of 5 in every direction. And then 5 up. And then we can go ahead and trace our circle. And then we can clearly see our domain that goes from -3 to 7. And then range lowest is from -11 up to -1.